Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Just recently, Christopher Mellon, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, he's recently come out with this long opinion piece, a long column basically for online publication, The Debrief, and it's entitled, "Why is the Air Force AWOL on the UAP issue?" And basically, he's wondering why the Air Force, has not released any information with regard to UAP, as did the Navy and other government entities. Basically, his argument here, he writes, now, of course, let me give some context there. Of course, last year, the Pentagon released that report that talked about 144 different cases, UAP sightings from 2004 until 2021. And apparently there's hardly any, maybe even none, that were apparently submitted from the Air Force. And what Mellon's saying here in his piece is that the Air Force is actually, from what he understands, there's actually been thousands of UAP incidents involving Air Force personnel over that same period, but none of those incidents were included, if any. Maybe a couple might have been. He's not sure, but these incidents from the Air Force were not included in any of those reports. And you would think that the Air Force flyers would actually have more incidents with UFOs than perhaps the Navy would. I mean, you would think. Anyway, he writes, the report cited 144 incidents since 2004 in which the United States military detected these enigmatic aircraft. Although public affairs refused to clarify, it is my understanding that the United States Air Force contributed very few, if any, of the 144 reports. If one or two United States Air Force UAP reports did slip through, they are at best the exception that proves the rule. Otherwise, it was virtually all United States Navy reporting. Notably, in 80 cases, multiple sensor systems simultaneously corroborated the presence of UAP. And then he goes on here. He says, How is this possible in light of the Air Force's global responsibility for aerospace defense and its massive air and space surveillance capabilities? Are we to believe the Air Force did not detect any UAP from 2004 until 2021? This lapse in Air Force reporting raises doubts about the credibility of the Air Force on the UAP issue and its responsiveness to civilian oversight. And he goes on, he says, I will present data below indicating that the Air Force and its component organizations actually detected thousands of UAP from 2004 through 2021. Admittedly, it is theoretically conceivable that none represented breakthrough Russian or Chinese technology, much less alien spacecraft, but the point is that we simply don't know. That's what makes them UAP. And then, of course, this very long piece goes on to provide different information that supports, his concerns with the Air Force not making these things public, keeping it secret. And and then toward the end of this, he sums it up. And I'm not gonna, again, I will leave the link for this, and I highly recommend you check this out. But he writes toward the end of his piece here, going forward, it is reasonable for our elected officials to consider the old adage, don't ask the question if you are not ready for the answer. However, I believe the American people can handle the truth, even if some of these objects ultimately prove to be extraterrestrial. I say that in part because the revelation of genuine United States military encounters with UAP in 2020 barely caused a stir among either the press or the public. The public has also gradually become aware in recent years that almost all star systems have planets, some similar to Earth. Hence, the odds we are alone in the galaxy, much less the universe, seem vanishingly small. Again, the public seems nonplussed. Moreover, unidentified aerial phenomena have been occurring for many decades, if not millennia, and our popular culture revels in the possibilities. There is also no reason to think that the elusive nature of the phenomenon would suddenly change merely because we confirm what many have suspected since the 1940s. Regardless, I believe the public has a right to know, and that over the long haul, the truth will inevitably produce more benefit than harm. If nothing else, I suspect we can all agree that it is not the Air Force's prerogative to sidestep civilian policymakers in deciding how best to handle such a profound issue. And then he encourages policymakers to, quote, insist on plain talk and straight answers regarding this potentially existential issue. Historically, when has ignorance been an ally or truth an adversary? And then he cites a quote from the New Testament from John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Amen on that one there, Christopher. Yes, the truth will set us free. I've been beating the same drum here on this issue since I started this podcast. But anyhow, and before the podcast, I've always believed that the truth is better than this nonsense, this cover up, this consistent. It's an insult to intelligence, basically, and it's basically a deliberate effort to keep ignorant the population of the world. The population of the world is mostly, for the large part, by and large, it's ignorant, completely ignorant on the fact that this planet is being visited by extraterrestrials. Now, before I talk about his conclusion here, he actually tweeted something. He wanted to be clear. Mellon on Sunday, the 6th here, Mellon, he wanted to clarify something. He says, to clarify, I do think the ET hypothesis best explains the facts for some of these incidents. But that is not proof, and I agree there could be a more conventional explanation. Regardless, our failure to identify these incidents is unacceptable and imperils our national security. Okay. Yeah, see, that one of the problems, I could sit here and I have enough proof, throughout my lifetime that I know that there's extraterrestrial. As far as I believe, there has to be extraterrestrial in my mind and in the minds of a lot of other people, because otherwise, then we're talking about an enhanced, an advanced intelligence that's been here the whole time. We just don't see it, or maybe, or perhaps it's some people like to say it could be interdimensional beings. Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm right now, I'm going along with extraterrestrials. I've seen one of these craft up close and personal back in 1994, so I know that these things exist. And I also had some other experiences that I've talked about numerous times. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I know personally that there's something here. I believe it's extraterrestrial, but hey, if somebody was to come forward and say, well, no, they're actually interdimensional beings. Okay, whatever. Okay. Or they're actually, there's a civilization that's, more advanced than human beings are, and they've been living under the ocean all this time. We just didn't know it. Okay, whatever. Okay, but I'm going to go with extraterrestrial for the time being. But I know that people in our government know this. But anyway, let's continue with what Mellon has to say before I get too far off track. He writes in his conclusion, as progeny of the Enlightenment, we are a nation that believes in compassion, but also rational, objective, fact-based inquiry. The scientific mindset produced by the Enlightenment lies at the root of most modern advances in medicine, technology, and living standards. But this mindset sometimes clashes with our natural human instinct to avoid topics that challenge core beliefs or undermine our standing in the community. Are we reaching the limit of the questions we are brave enough to ask or data we are brave enough to pursue? If so, will that also limit our further progress as a nation? From that perspective, the UAP issue is a serious test of our intellectual integrity and courage, perhaps even the ultimate test. Although it is a stern test, I believe our civilian policymakers have the courage and integrity needed to rise to the challenge. Yeah, let's get the Congress to do a little bit more, okay, than just passing that UAP, the bill recently that included the creation of the UAP office that's supposed to report to the public at least once a year. So I'm of course a lot of these things I agree with everything that he's saying here, and what's been going on here over the last few years is, we've talked about this before, there seems to be a slow disclosure ongoing. Is the Air Force, are they going to start getting involved in this mix at some point? Was that part of the plan and they just didn't do it yet? I don't know. Who knows what they're doing? But as far as I'm concerned, they're still sitting on the truth. A lot of people out there just don't believe that this is possible, that their extraterrestrials are here. I mean, you could talk to a lot of smart people out there, and they'll tell you they don't believe it. And that is because the cover-up, the stigmatization policy, the policy by the government to begin to stigmatize this issue back in the 50s, it's still prevalent today. It's going to take time to finally, it's going to be, this slow disclosure we're seeing, okay, that it is starting to move forward. But I think it's best to come out with the truth all at once. I think people could handle it. They'll have to. You just deal with it. You deal with it. If that's the truth, you just have to learn to deal with it. Of course, there'll be some people that go off their rockers and everything, but you're going to have that with anything. I just hate the fact that this is still being covered up the way it's been for all these decades. And at least, again, we are seeing some progress with what seems to be an apparent slow disclosure. I don't know if there's still, it seems like there might be efforts behind the scenes to stop that disclosure from proceeding. But as far as I can see, it's still proceeding. I mean, I'm looking forward to read, I'm hoping that there's some more new revelations in the book that's, Elizondo's coming out with this year. I'm hoping that, I'm really looking forward to seeing that book, reading that book. But yeah, I think that, again, you should check out this article. He lays out a great case, and it's a pretty lengthy, it's going to take you a little bit to read it. But he lays out some interesting issues with regard to the Air Force, and, that they've been, that they have not has been forthcoming as the Navy has. Apparently, for whatever reason, somebody I guess in the Air Force is just not ready. Doesn't believe the public is ready to deal with the truth of this whole situation. And it's just a shame. It's a shame.